Hi guys, this is Bison, your host, and today's game proves that you don't always need a queen sacrifice to create a masterpiece. At first, everything looks completely quiet, but then Mikhail Botvinnik suddenly started sacrificing the pieces. I mean, his attack just keeps getting stronger and stronger. Okay, so the game starts with d4, d5, the classic queen's pawn structure. c4. Here Botvinnik goes for the queen's gambit, but e6. Black just declines. Knight to c3, putting pressure on the d5 pawn. Knight to f6. And guys, that's the normal defense in the queen's gambit declined. And after that, bishop to g5, pinning the knight. So to unpin this, bishop to e7. And you can see in the next move he's going to castle. Okay, so e3. Here Botvinnik opens the diagonal for his light square bishop, which defends the c4 pawn, and finally Batuyev decides to castle. Knight to f3, knight at b goes to d7, preparing for the c5 break, and now bishop to d3. Here Botvinnik aiming, as you can see, he's now aiming at the king side, and guys, this complete setup is called Botvinnik variation, which was named after him. And now some takes happen in the center, and after that c5, attacking the d4 pawn. But in this position, Botvinnik just decides to castle because king safety first, and then c takes d4, e takes d4, knight to b6. And as you can see, since this bishop is attacked, so Botvinnik brings it to b3, and after that he brings his knight to d5. I mean, he just centralizes the knight, asking for the knight exchange. But knight to e5, and look how aggressive was this knight. I mean, now it's targeting the f7 square as well as on the king side. So knight to d7, asking for knight exchange as well as asking for bishop exchange. So bishop takes e7, knight takes e7, and then queen to e2. And now here the best move for black is to exchange this active knight with knight takes e5. The idea is after takes and then bishop to d7, with the idea of bishop to c6, developing this bishop to this strong diagonal. But in the game after queen to e2, yep. So here Batuyev decides to bring his knight to f6, which opens the line for the queen, and now it is targeting the d4 pawn. So to defend this, Botvinnik brings his rook to d1, but then b6, preparing for bishop to b6. And guys, to stop this move here, white can consider queen to f3, which attacks this rook. And let's say if this rook slides to b8, and guys, now white can consider this amazing move d5. I mean, it's like white had the entire army on standby, and just one move mobilizes everyone for battle. And let's say if this game continues with knight takes d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5, bishop takes d5, knight takes d5, and instead of recapturing this knight, here white can consider this amazing move knight to c6. And you can see now this queen and rook are under attack. So obviously queen to c7 is forced, and then knight takes b8. And here the best move for black is to defend this knight with bishop to b7, because let's say if he is not and he decides to grab this knight, that will be a mistake, because now just queen takes d5, and clearly you can see this is completely winning for white due to an extra rook. Okay, so in the game after the move b6, yep. So in this position, here Botvinnik brings his another rook on c1, which supports the c file and maybe creating a potential attack on the queen side. And this move also stops this queen from coming to c7. Okay, so bishop to b7, and as you can see now he's eyeing on this strong diagonal. So to shut it down, Botvinnik pushes f3. And guys, now it's better for black to centralize this knight. And why I'm saying that, you will understand this later. But instead he makes a blunder with rook to c8. And guys, that's a blunder because this allows whites to launch a devastating attack which he was waiting for. and Botvinnik in this position starts this attack with knight takes f7, and now just take a look on to this weak diagonal. So that's why now you can understand why I am saying that this move knight to d5 was important, because basically this move blocks this complete diagonal. And after rook takes f7, now comes queen takes e6, putting immense pressure on the rook on f7. And since this pressure is immense, so Batuyev decides to defend this with rook queen to f8. And now here white can consider the move rook to e1 with the idea of putting immense pressure into the black's position, but instead he even finds the more amazing move, which is knight to e4, adding another piece into the attack. And you can see now knight to d6 is coming. So that's why it's better to just slide this rook to d8, but instead Batuyev decides to exchange the rooks with rook takes c1. And guys, that's a mistake, because obviously he just loses his rook, which could be a great defender for the 7th rank. Because after okay, so rook takes c1, Botvinnik just recaptures with the rook. Okay, so here black tries to block this diagonal with knight at f goes to d5, but knight to d6. I mean, now just look at this, or we can say just look at the pressure on the f7 rook, which is just immense. Okay, so since this knight is also targeting this bishop, so he just brings it back to a8, but then rook to e1, adding more pressure to the 7th rank. But g6, he just makes a space for his king. But in this position, knight takes f7, he just takes, queen takes f7, and guys, in this position Botvinnik decides to grab this knight with queen takes e7. He just gives up his queen because he knows that after knight takes e7, rook takes e7, and obviously black can't recapture this rook due to the pin. So that's why he decides to play bishop to d5. But rook takes f7, bishop takes f7, bishop takes f7 check, king takes f7, and guys, in this position the final move by Botvinnik is king to f2, and in this position Batuyev resigned. This is because clearly you can see here white is 2 pawns up, and this endgame is completely winning for white. I mean, let's say if black tries to push h5, but then king to e3, white is going to centralize his king. King to f6, king to e4, king to e6, d5 check, king to d6, h4, a5, a4, king to c5, king to e5, b5, and you can see now the moves which black is going to play all will be forced. So a takes b5, king takes b5, d6, king to c6, but then king to e6, and you can see now no one can stop this pawn from promotion. What a game by Mikhail Botvinnik. I mean, his sacrifices, just perfect piece coordination, brilliant calculation, and one incredible, knight sacrifice that completely destroyed black's position. Like this video, and I will see you in the next one. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.